today. A lot of headlines from across the state to pound through. Let's start with the college football front. Let's start with the as we are want to do. We will start with the actual action on the field. It was another week of the sub-FBS teams getting going. The number 4 team in the nation, the Sam Houston Bearcats, the number 4 team in the nation, and of course their coach, Texas Football Today's own Casey Keeler, got a tough one. They went on the road and beat Northwestern State 24-16. It's their 3rd straight win. This is kind of amazing. It's an amazing note from Corey Hogue on TexasFootball.com. This is the 4th straight time they've won at Turpin Stadium, where Northwestern State plays. It's that's the most consecutive road wins against NSU since they started playing in 1929. Like, they've never beaten them 3 times in a row on the road. Like, Northwestern State's just always been a thorn in their side. And so, pretty amazing. But they were able to hold off a rally from Sam Houston State, or rather from Northwestern State, to come across with a big-time victory. And once again, the defense was fantastic for them. They held them to just 43 rushing yards. They were very, very good. In the small, the very, very small school ranks, there's another nationally ranked squad in the state of Texas. A few of them, actually. As Kilgore, the number 2 team in the JUCO ranks, they went on. They played Northeastern Oklahoma A&M on Saturday and ended up beating the Norsemen 14-13. Another
Always
fantastic
fun to say.
defense. That was a really, really big one for them. On the other side, we've lavished praise on Tarleton this year, the number 21 team in the FCS ranks right now. We've lavished praise on them making the leap to there. Maybe they were just due for a bit of a regression. Maybe they were just due for an off week, but they got an off week. And they end up losing to East Central Oklahoma, which is a Division II team. They lose 21-14, and this was they could not run the ball. Tarleton was not able to run the ball. They coughed it up 3 times, and look, I wonder. There's a lot to break down there, because they had been really rolling along, and it had been like, man, Tarleton, like, they've got figured out. The FCS, like, that transition is not going to be that difficult for them. But I think it's just proof that, like, there's no straight roads. You know what I mean? Like, there's going to be curves and trouble spots there, and obviously, maybe they overlooked them, maybe they looked past them. But a little bit disappointing there for Tarleton. They were number 21 in the most recent rankings. One would think they will tumble out of the top 25 after losing to a Division II squad. I think East Central Oklahoma is pretty good as far as Division II teams are concerned.
Yes.
But much in the same way that if you're an FBS team, there's not an excuse to lose to an FCS team.
Right.
If you're a ranked FCS team, there's not an excuse to lose to a Division II team. And so,
especially if you're trying to prove yourself that you deserve to be up there.
Now, look, here's the thing. If this was their first game of the year and we didn't have and entering the season, they lose their first game to East Central Oklahoma, we'd be like, well, or then be like, oh, okay, well, hey, that transition was always going to be tough, and it looks like it's just going to be a tough transition. That's a decent Division II team. But I think
being played in the spring too, that would have numbed it too.
But they raised their own bar. They set they raised their own expectations through how they've played in the early part of the season, and as a result, it's a little bit disappointing to see, especially at home, Tarleton take a loss to East Central Oklahoma. So disappointing there from there, but overall a decent week on the small college front in the state of Texas. Okay, let's get to some college or some high school football action. And it's not often that we are going to have 2 stories revolving around the same coaching vacancy. Yeah. But we will. We're going to have 2 of them around the same vacancy. We're going to go down to Austin, talk about Austin Del Valle. I'm sorry, Austin Del Valle. It's El Paso Del Valle. It's Austin Del Valle, because that makes sense. Okay.
Words are fun.
The head coach at Del Valle for the past 8 seasons has been Charles Burton. Charles Burton resigned after 8 seasons, led them to the playoffs in 2016. He was the longest tenured head coach in the school's history. So that opens up a decent job there at Del Valle. Well, that job has been filled by an out-of-stater a gentleman by the name of Bobby Acosta will be the new head coach at Del Valle, rather. I'm going to get it.
We'll get it right eventually.
He will be the new head coach at Del Valle. He is coming from IMG Academy. IMG Academy, of course, the program there in Florida. They posted, for what it's worth, they posted an 8-0 record under him. IMG is, I think, for people who follow high school football, that is a bit of a different animal. They are a program that routinely has a number of big-time prospects playing for them. So there is obviously a big talent, a big talent influx there at IMG that he may not have at Del Valle, but 8-0 is 8-0, plain and simple. Right. And so Bobby Acosta,
they beat Duncanville this year.
They did.
So there's something that's notable.
Yeah, they came to Texas and they beat Duncanville. So IMG Academy coach Bobby Acosta is moving from Florida to Austin to take over at Del Valle. That was his only job. Rather, that was his only year at IMG was this past year. So I'll plead ignorance. I don't know where he was before then. So I'll have to do some research there. But Del Valle does have a new head coach. It is Bobby Acosta coming in from IMG Academy. And so you're probably thinking, okay, well, what happened with Charles Burton? And we don't talk a ton about coordinator changes.
Right.
We don't talk a lot about every year. On this show, it's hard enough to focus on all the head coaching changes.
There's 1,400, over 1,400 coaching changes that we have to keep up.
Yeah, with. Right. It's hard enough to keep up with all the head coaching changes. I will just tell you that there's always a lot of movement in the assistant coaches ranks, right?
Absolutely.
There's guys going from here to there, hiring a new offensive coordinator, hiring a new assistant here, or a new defensive line coach.
We would need a whole other staff to keep up with that.
It's just impossible. It's just impossible. But one we are going to focus on is what came down and what's being reported by the Austin American-Statesman. I first saw it reported by our friend Thomas Jones down there at the Austin American-Statesman, that Charles Burton is going to become an assistant on the staff at Lake Travis, joining the staff there for Hank Carter there at Lake Travis. Obviously, pretty good get there for Hank Carter, a guy who's got head coaching experience. Whenever you're able to bring him onto the into the mix, he's going to have some good ideas, and there's a lot to gain there, right?
But let's go even deeper into the
weeds. You're probably
weeds.
wondering why I'm mentioning this. Because there are a lot of other former head football coaches who land at programs as assistants, right? It's because Charles Burton has a son.
His offspring is quite good at football.
He has a son, and it is 5-star wide receiver Caleb Burton, who will be joining him at Lake Travis. And so suddenly, Lake Travis has a 5-star wide receiver on their campus and has a 5-star wide receiver joining the Cavaliers.
Who is also a coach's kid, and a lot of times that brings a lot of hype to a program.
Right. Caleb Burton, according to he's an Ohio State committee. He's a 5-star prospect, according to 24/7. I want to see, where do we have him in our Hot 100? Let me make sure of this.
Our 2022
released Hot 100. We have him at, okay, come on, link me to it. You're TexasFootball.com/recruiting. You can find Caleb Burton checking in at number 9. So the number 9, we have him as the Dave Campbell's Texas Football 4-star right now. He is certainly, I think if you talk with Greg Powers, he is certainly in the mix for a 5th star. One of the very best prospects in the state of Texas. A top 10 prospect in the state of Texas is joining his father at Lake Travis to join the staff there. So that is big doings as well. Other coaching changes from around the state. Let's go to the Valley. Brownsville Veterans Memorial has made a hire, and they are bringing in a college football coach. The head coach of and this was from a couple weeks ago, but Eastern New Mexico University, Kelly Lee, is leaving Eastern New Mexico to play at Brownsville Veterans Memorial. He spent the last 4 years as the head coach at ENMU. He was there for 4 years as an assistant. They did not play in the fall in 2020. Eastern New Mexico did not. He is leaving to become the new head coach at Brownsville Veterans Memorial. So anytime you're able to snatch a college football coach, that's pretty big doings there. Another one out in East Texas, and we're going to talk to an East Texas coach coming up here in a moment.
To confirm, he's going to coach. You said he's going to play at
No, I'm
Brownsville.
sorry. He's going to coach.
His eligibility is.
I don't know what Coach Kelly's eligibility is. Maybe he's going to be player coach, but he will be the coach at Brownsville
Yes.
Memorial. Let's talk about a guy who we're quite familiar with on this show, Tristan Abram. Tristan Abram was, you remember back in 2019, he was able to take Paul Pewitt to the state championship game. He was our Dave Campbell's Texas Football Coach of the Year. He moves from Paul Pewitt to Mejia. Is there for 1 year, led them to a district championship and a spot in the area around playoffs. He's on the move again. He's heading back out east, back to northeast Texas, to take over at Pittsburgh. He will take over at Pittsburgh. This is it was a difficult end to last year. If you remember, Mejia had to forfeit their area round game because of COVID-19 protocols. So they didn't even have a loss to end their season.
No.
He is now going to be moving out to Pittsburgh to take over the Pirates of Pittsburgh, the high school football team, not the baseball team. He will be taking over Pittsburgh out there in East Texas. So Tristan Abram on the move once again. And then one more. I want to make sure this doesn't fall through the cracks. This is pretty big. I thought that this was a pretty big move that you may not have been paying attention to. But Gerald has been down in the dumps for a while. This is a program that's been a bit downtrodden lately. They have made a big-time splash hire when they brought in Marty Murr, the head coach from San Augustine, to take over there. Coach Murr was they had a difficult year last year, but between 2017 and 2019, they went to the state semifinals in 2A Division I 3 straight years. They were 40-5 during those 3 years. This guy knows what he's doing. And he is a guy who, before that, he had stops at Alto and Anahuac. He is now going to Gerald, a very heavy-hitting hire here for Gerald as they bring in Marty Murr from San Augustine. So, of course, you can find all of the Texas high school football coaching changes at texasfootball.com.